welcome to the FCICA Product Promotional Webinar Series. We are pleased to have Mike Pigeon with us today to talk about the Roppe Holding Company's Excelsior product line. Mike, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Kelly. All right, everybody, good morning. And I just want to take the first few minutes here to thank you for giving me the chance to present and talk about Roppe's new Excelsior line. As you probably all know, that we, as far as the Roppe Holding Company, have a underneath our umbrella, we have the Roppe flooring products. We have FlexGo, we have 6 Degrees, and we have N+ too. So we've got a few different product lines as far as underneath our umbrella. And for those of you that are familiar with it, and I'm just trying to get to the next slide here, Kelly. And for you guys that are familiar with it, all of our product lines had a different adhesive number or a different name. So what we did basically to become a company of answers, solutions, because rather than just having adhesives, we decided to bring in the Excelsior line so that we had solutions to problems. And what we did was, when we expanded it, we brought all of those products, all those manufacturers in underneath the Excelsior line as our recommended adhesives. The reason we did this is, again, solutions. There was a lot of times when different jobs, we'd get different calls, different situations, whether it be high moisture or prep issues or sound control. We always had to send off to somebody else. So what we wanted to do was bring in our own product line under the Excelsior line and expand it so that we had answers to different solutions. So we're going to kind of touch base on what we expanded on, the different products that we have, and what their purposes are. So as we get going through here, I just, again, I want to thank everybody for coming on and taking their time on their busy mornings and listening to what we've got to offer. So Excelsior is was a product line we brought in to expand. Now, the first product that I want to talk about, or the first situation I want to talk about, is moisture. For those of us that have been in the flooring business long enough, we all know what issues that moisture can cause, and it's a everyday battle that we fight. And Kel, this is not moving here. For those of you that have been in the business, moisture is an everyday battle, okay? So I'm going to kind of touch base on what we've got going on here and why we brought the products in. And I'm just going to touch base a little bit on moisture. I'm not going to get too deep into it. But for those of you that are experienced in the flooring industry, and for some of you that are listening that aren't, if you guys might pick up on a few items, and hopefully we can help. So when it comes to moisture, back in the old days, obviously we all know that there was a lot of the adhesives that were solvent and petroleum based really weren't affected by moisture. That's what we in the industry like to call the good old days. Okay, the good old days are gone now, and a lot of the adhesives that are out there today are based off of, are very sensitive to moisture and what moisture, basically what moisture brings to the surface of concrete as it starts to evaporate. With that being said, those alkalis and salts and stuff within the concrete itself during the drying process is what usually affects our adhesive these days. They're very sensitive to it. So as you know, when concrete is mixed, there's quite a bit of moisture that goes into the mixture of a concrete slab. That moisture has to go somewhere, and especially today, back in the old days, they didn't have vapor retarders underneath the concrete slab. So that moisture, if the ground was fairly dry, it could travel both ways. Nowadays, they have vapor retarders that they put underneath concrete slabs. So with that being said, once that concrete is poured, that amount of moisture within that concrete slab really has nowhere to go but up. And naturally on top of the concrete slab is what? It's our flooring. And this is where the problems start, and there's quite a bit of moisture within that concrete when it's mixed, when it's made, when it's poured. And it all depends whether it's a slab on grade or whether it's a slab that's 30 feet up in the air, whether 3rd floor, 4th floor, or even 10th floor. And the higher you go, the more mixture they're going to put in it, the more water they're going to put in it, so it's flowable and it pumps and they can get it to where it needs to be. But regardless, it's still going to have a vapor retarder on it. A lot of the times, unless it's a suspended slab, it's got the chance to dry from both sides. If it's on an upper level and it's over a pan deck, then you've got metal on the bottom side. That moisture still only really has one way to go. Even with vented pans, you know, some people say because the pans are vented, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, but the pans that they pour on multi-level buildings are actually vented. They have holes on the bottom side, and sometimes the perception is that will dry a little bit quicker, when in actuality it really doesn't help the matter very much. So it's still, moisture still only has one way to go. Same thing with on a ground slab too. With a ground slab, you've got a vapor retarder. Sometimes nowadays, to do the work over top of with the rebar and stuff, to save the integrity of the vapor retarder, they put a layer of sand so that the iron workers could go ahead and work and not puncture the integrity of the vapor retarder. And then they pour the slab over top of that. But typically what happens is that basically just turns into a big wet sandbox. And actually that sand retains more moisture than a normal slab that would be poured directly over a vapor retarder. So with that being said, as the concrete starts to cure and starts to dry, before the floor covering is actually put over top of it, that moisture is free to flow wherever it wants to. Okay, and with that being said, you know, it's not really going to equilibrate that much. Most of the moisture is going to sit at the bottom of the slab until that building gets closed in. Now, as that building gets closed in and the HVAC system is turned on, that ambient RH is going to start drawing some of that moisture out of the slab. And as you can see here in the picture, you know, before the floor covering is put on, you know, most of that moisture is going to sit neutral within the slab. As it starts to dry, if I can get this slide to turn, as it starts to dry in the open air, the top layer of that slab is going to start to dry out a little bit, and a lot of that topical moisture in the top part of the slab is going to dry out a little bit. Come on. Apologize for the delay here. Kel, you can help me here.
There you go.
Thank you. All right. So there we go. So as the floor covering, prior to the floor covering going on, you can see that a lot of the moisture is going to sit at the bottom of the slab, and that moisture on the top part of the slab, you know, will freely just flow out as it needs to, depending on the ambient temperature, ambient relative humidity within the building before it's actually got a chance to, you know, the HVAC system is turned on. Okay, so in actuality, the concrete surface, as it says, will appear to be dry. Now, a lot of that moisture is going to sit within that slab. You're not really going to be able to tell whether it is or whether it isn't. You know, there's two ways to do this. Obviously, you know, you've got your MVER, which is tested through a calcium chloride test, which is basically going to test that top 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch of concrete, and it's going to tell you basically what amount of vapors are actually traveling through the concrete in the form of vapor. And for those of you, you know, that aren't familiar with it, calcium chloride test is basically just a petri dish underneath a clear cover, which creates its own environment. And this is tested over a period of 60 to 72 hours. And that the calcium chloride is going to absorb moisture. And you do the pre-weight, you do the weight after the time. You know, how much moisture has that product absorbed into it, and then you do a calculation. That'll give you basically how many pounds of vapor are coming through that slab within a 24-hour period, and that is based off of 1,000 square feet. So, you know, you do your tests, you do 3 for the first 1,000 square feet and 1 for every 1,000 square feet after that, and that gives you a roundabout as far as the vapor traveling through that concrete slab. The second way of testing this is relative humidity. Okay, now this is basically when you drill into the slab and you put a sensor into the slab. Typically it's about 40% depth of the concrete, and what that is telling us is that, you know, with all the testing that these guys have done over the years, that 40% is basically going to be the equal point to where, you know, whatever is sitting on the lower half of that slab, and once the building has been closed in, the ambient temperature and conditions are equal to what it's going to be in an operable situation, that slab has equaled out, okay? And so with that depth, any moisture that's at the bottom, when it starts to travel up, and we can go ahead here to the next slide, because you're going to see that once once the flooring is put on, whatever is left at the bottom of that slab is going to start to equilibrate. So when you do a relative humidity test, if you've got your RH test down to 85 or lower, okay, and naturally a lot of the adhesive these days, because of the sensitivity to moisture and the chemistry and the technology today with the adhesives are able to handle, it used to be just a standard 85 RH, but a lot of the adhesive nowadays we're getting into the 90 and the 95s, of which we'll kind of touch base as I go through our adhesive line. So, but you know, it's kind of 85% or lower was typically the industry standard. And what that RH test does is that tells you what at the 40% of depth of that slab, once the building is acclimated, that if it's at 85, the moisture within that slab, once it starts to equal out, once the flooring is put on, isn't going to reach levels high enough to where it actually affects the adhesives. And again, you know, if we go back a couple of slides, which I'm not going to do, but if we go back a couple of slides, what it really breaks down the adhesives is as that moisture starts to travel through the slab, it's the alkalis and the salts, the undissolved salts that are within that concrete slab that come up with the moisture is actually what really attacks that adhesive. So we want to make sure that during the process and during the drying process and during the process of the building being completed and finished before our flooring goes in, we want to monitor that moisture level. And that's what's nice about the RH testing. The calcium chloride is basically a snapshot. It's a picture of what is coming out of that slab the day it's done or the weekend it's done within that 60 to 72 hour period. An RH test, you're able to put it in there and monitor it as the slab dries, which kind of it works good for us because you can see what's happening within that slab as we get closer and closer to the flooring install. So, you know, that's kind of what I just wanted to touch base on moisture. I could go on this subject for days at a time, and anybody in the industry knows that it's an ongoing problem. So what have we done? Basically, what we've done is at Excelsior is we've expanded our horizons to help this situation. You know, here's some slides that are basically, you know, what are the signs of a moisture issue, whether it be hydrostatic, whether it just be, you know, a little bit of vapor, whether it was, you know, you've got a big problem, whether it's topical moisture coming in through the seams. You know, there's quite a few different ways that it can affect and signs of it. Here, the slide on the left, you can see where the adhesive is actually re-emulsified, and you can start to see blobs as stuff is rolled across the floor and that adhesive is re-emulsified. You're going to start seeing blobs and you know, lumps of glue. You know, again, here we are. You know, with the alkalinity coming up through the slab with the moisture breaking down the glue, you can see what happens. Here's two examples. One on the right where it has absolutely re-emulsified. And then on the other one where, you know, on the left where it's come through VCT with some of the old cutback adhesive is actually re-emulsified the old cutback, and you can see the adhesive coming through the seams. Very common. You see a lot of this back in older kitchens and areas and stuff like that where they put VCT. You know, whether this be topical moisture, whether it be coming through the slab, it's still an issue. And once that breaks down, there's nothing you can do about it. Basically, take it up. The floor's got to be treated with a moisture barrier, and then, you know, we can reinstall over top of that, which is a timely and very costly procedure. Here's some more examples. Hydrostatic pressure. I'm sure anyone in the industry long enough has probably seen hydrostatic pressure, or actually enough pressure or vapor coming through that slab to where it will actually create bubbles like this, and you pop the bubbles and there's literally standing water underneath. And especially when it comes to the resilient side of the flooring industry. You know, carpet breeze, certain products have a permeability rating to them where they will actually breathe a little bit. Obviously, carpet more than anything. You know, carpet tiles and VCT will at least breathe through the sides, you know, where the seams are. But when you get into the sheet goods and rubber tile, you know, stuff that is very impermeable, and it's going to seal anything underneath that slab quite permanently, and that's where you're going to have your issues. Resilient flooring installers and companies that deal with resilient flooring, I'm sure you've seen a lot of this over the years. So, you know, going back to cost, what is the cost of moisture issues? You know, you've got here's kind of a breakdown as far as what it would cost, you know, and this is kind of a rough estimate throughout the different marketplaces across the U.S., but, you know, 50 cents a square foot when it comes to patching and prep. You've got your underlayments, which could be, you know, a moisture mitigation. It could be, you know, maybe let's even say like a sound deadening. You've got your adhesive, your finished floor at $5 to $10 a square foot. And then your labor, you know, depending on what marketplace you're in, your labor can be $5 a square foot, $10 a square foot. I'm sure a lot of the installers, if there's any installers on this webinar, would love to be making that amount of money. But, you know, in reality, when you break it down to an hourly basis, you know, it can be quite costly. So let's take it. You know, that's $12 to $22 a square foot for basically material and labor costs. You know, and if you've got a 10,000 square foot job, there's your value right there. You know, if moisture is not addressed ahead of the game, and you know these conversations come in ahead of time, then you know it could be costly in the long run. Now, just to kind of reiterate back, going back a little bit, I come from an installation background. I spent 19 years on my knees, and then I also came from a project management standpoint for almost a decade. So, you know, I've seen the real world. I understand, you know, what it is as far as the actual installation mindset and where the installers are at when they get to the job site. And I also understand the project management side of it when it comes to, you know, doing you know, every GC and every architect hates it when you show up a week before the job and start laying this on them that all of a sudden they got to start doing moisture testing. So, you know, I'm a big proponent to installation job walks and job meetings. All right. So Excelsior, I'm going to touch base here on, you know, some of our products. Let me jump back here where our product label is. Okay, there's the Excelsior label. You can see the label for our installation products. And I'm just going to start running through these real quick. And just just kind of go over the installation and what they've replaced in the Roppe or the Flexco line and why we changed them and a little bit of product description. So we have come up with quite a few options here. We got into the moisture mitigation. Okay, we got into the we've got a product called the MM100, which is a moisture mitigation system. And what we did is, listen, we're not getting into the sundries market. Okay, there's going to be some of our distributors, some of our suppliers. It might be worth it because we've got some great price points out there. You know, and if you're interested, go talk to your local Roppe sales rep or Flexco sales rep, and they can get you pricing. But, you know, we're not getting into the sundries market. What we're doing, this is more brought in more to be spec driven, okay? Because now that we've got a complete system from top to bottom, we can go ahead and have the option, and it's going to basically be spec driven, so it can be written up to as one unit, as one parcel, without having to cross-link between, you know, a manufacturer of a moisture mitigation using a different primer, using a different patch with our adhesives and flooring. So this is why we brought it in. Now, these products will work just great with anybody else's products too. You know, basically, if you've got carpet tiles, if you've got other sheet goods, if you've got other rubber tiles, if, you know, whatever you've got, these products will work. But again, we're not getting into the sundries market, you know, to compete against the big guys. So what we've brought in is exactly what we can see here. These are the different sections. We brought in a cement patch. We brought in a self leveler. We brought in a primer too. Our primer right now is rated for non-porous substrates, and we don't have one for porous substrates because basically what we did was we brought in a non-porous substrate, our primer, to work in conjunction with the MM100. Sound control, we've got a cork, double glue down cork sound control, which is CSU 400, and we've got the FSU 410, which is a floating system. So basically that would float over top of the floor, and you can glue your resilient flooring down to that. The acrylic adhesives, we still have the spray, our acrylic wet set, and the new one on our product line in the Excelsior is our acrylic pressure sensitive, which we did not have before. The wall base, epoxy nose filler, which is required for all steps and you know, step installations. Pressure sensitive tape, which is not uncommon. We had that before, but what another new one that we brought in is the C630 contact adhesive. That is because, again, you know, we needed an answer for certain situations when it comes to, you know, everybody knows Roppe and Flexco for our base. And so, you know, when it comes to non-porous substrates and also accessories, we brought in the contact cement. Heavy-duty adhesives, we brought in the MS700, which has replaced our old urethane adhesive, the 6100. The nice part about it is the MS is rated for both indoor and outdoor applications, but the old 6100 you could typically only use for rubber applications. You couldn't use it for our LVT line. The MS now you can use it for both. We have our epoxies, and then obviously both our acrylic ESD adhesives and our epoxy ESD adhesives. So kind of touching base, when it comes to the MM100, this is a great product. It's a single component. There's no mixing required. You know, when it comes to the high solid two-part epoxies, they don't have much of a bonding capacity, and that's why you have to have that surface profiled. So it's got a mechanical bond to it. The MM100 is a very sticky. It sticks to just about anything. If you've worked with it already, you probably know that you have to be very cautious with it. It dries harder than a rock, and it's a great product to work with. The nice part about it is it doesn't necessarily require shot blasting as long as you've got a good, clean, solid substrate. You've got residual adhesive taken down to where you're confident that the adhesive is not going to release. You want to get rid of obviously old trowel marks and you know, that amount of residual adhesive and get it down to where it's clean concrete surface. Again, its ability to bond, but it also is a penetrant. It will penetrate clean concrete to a certain amount, and it works great. It blocks moisture up to 99% or 20 pounds MVER. And you could be installing floors as little as 2 hours. A little bit of detail on this one is that it is a two-coat system. Okay, it's a two-coat system, and thin is in. Okay, with the high solid epoxies, a lot of the times you want to make sure that you've got a certain amount of mils, whether it be 10 mil or 12 mil or 14 mil. With this stuff here, you want thin. The thinner, the better. A nice thin coat rolled on in one direction. 45 minutes later, you roll on the second coat in the other direction, and it will dry within 45 minutes. You can put the primer on over top of that, and you can actually be installing, doing your prep and possibly even installing floors on smaller jobs within that same day. So you don't have the long dry times, you don't have the shutdown, you don't have the positive air pressure and you know, containment and the whole 9 yards. So, and it's zero VOCs, so it's easy to work with in contained areas. If you've got, you know, operational hospitals or old folks home or retirement home, that it's not going to be offensive to the people around it. Moving on, you know, what are your options? You know, again, this time kind of touching base. You know, what are the advantages of epoxy? It's a single coat system, can be applied to new concrete. You know, excellent vapor reduction and pH resistance. And, you know, you've got very good warranties with it, and it's tested and true over time throughout the industry. Disadvantage is it can be expensive. We all know how much it costs. By the time you shot blast, by the time you, like I said, containment, the whole 9 yards, it can be very costly. You also have a lot of time. You need your dry times, your setup times, and then also too, VOCs and redless chemicals are definitely involved with those products. So you know, it does have its disadvantages. And I'm not going to talk bad about them because I've used them myself, and they're very effective product. But when it comes to the polyurethane moisture mitigation, you know, you've got your advantages. You don't have that, need that aggressive concrete penetration. It's got excellent, just as good of resistance to vapor reduction, and we've got a good warranty coverage too. A disadvantage is, you know, the concrete's got to be a little bit older than, you know, green. As long as it's not standing water and you've had your 28-day cure time, you should be good to go. The MM100 is basically out of the product, or the pail that we got, which is a 2.5 gallon pail. You're going to get 1,000 square feet out of that pail. That's single coat. So if you've got to do a 2-coat application, it's going to be about 500 square feet per pail. Again, applied with a roller, 45 minutes each coat. You can go ahead and be priming and patching over top of that within the same day. So again, here we go. We're into the primers. This was our next product that we brought in to work in conjunction with the MM100, because obviously the MM100, when it dries hard. It's going to be considered a non-porous substrate right now, and so we brought in a primer. What we liked about this primer is we brought it in. It's a single component, water-based, 0 VOCs, fast drying. Now, what's nice about this is it's got silica within the product itself. So once the product is dried, you run your hand over it, it feels like sandpaper. Okay, it feels like there's a sand broadcast in it. Well, that's great, because a lot of the other primers out there for non-porous substrate are a 2-part primer, and you've got your window. They got to dry for 4 hours, and they kind of got a tackiness to them, and you've got to install your top coating within a 12 or 16-hour period. The MP230, you don't have to do that. If you get your primer down, you get called out of a room, you can't do that room, you can let it sit for 2-3 days. It really doesn't matter, because this primer works really well. I'm sorry, the patches work real well with this primer because it's a mechanical bond. So, you know, again, only required when patching or leveling over a non-porous substrate. Comes in a 2.5 gallon pail. Again, you can put it on with a 1/4 or 3/8 inch snap. It doesn't have to be thick. You can roll it on fairly thin as long as you get a good even coat. And within 30 to 60 minutes, it's going to be dry, depending on your job conditions and what you're dealing with. So the next thing we've got on our line that we brought in is the patch, the CP300. Okay, great product. We decided to put this in a bucket rather than a bag. It's great for mixing. The guys like to use it. They can reuse the bucket. They can reseal it. Anybody in the industry knows that when it comes to bags, you know, obviously sometimes you don't use the whole bag. You put it back in the truck or the van, and the next thing you know, you've got a big mess. They get banged around, poked, and you've got dust all over the place. So, you know, the pail is 100% recyclable, and that's kind of why we went with the pail. But it bonds to a wide variety of substrates. Doesn't require primer over a non-porous substrate. I'm sorry, over a porous substrate. It does not require primer, and it dries quick. You know, it's got some great workability. You can skim coat up to a 1/2 inch. If you're going to do some repairs, I mean, you can even do repairs on this stuff up to 2.5 inches, and you know, it's going to take a little bit longer to dry. But if you're skim coating or doing a little bit of patch with the indents or chips and bangs out of the concrete, then, you know, within 15 to 30 minutes, you'll be okay to install. If you're going to put urethane or some type of a resinous flooring over top of it, you're going to want to give it, you know, the 12 hours. So it's got a specific mixture with water. The nice part about this is once you do mix it properly, if it starts to harden up on you in the bucket, you could re-whip it up to 4 or 5 times, and it will go back to its workability as it was when you originally mixed it. So it's a great product. You know, easy to work with, and we've been getting a lot of great response on this product. So the next one we brought in on our line, once your moisture barrier is down, you got your patch down or your primer down, whether it's going to be a patch or whether it's going to be a self-leveler, we brought in the self-leveler, our own products. So, you know, again, some of the PowerPoints here works great on a wide variety of substrates. It's walkable in 2 hours. Exceptional flow. I've done a lot of work with a lot of different self-levelers, and this product here, our Excelsior SU310, is very easy to work with. It's user-friendly. Again, you treat it like any other self-leveler. You've got your gauge rake, your smoother that you're going to use, and it flows exceptionally. It keeps a very good wet edge and is easy to work with. You know, you've got your long working time of 20, 25 minutes. And, you know, again, if you're doing huge rooms, it is pumpable or it is mixable in buckets. So you know, whether you want to do a 2-bag mix in a barrel, whether you want to do a single bag mix in a bucket, or whether you need to pump it in. If you're pumping it in, you can do large areas at a time. If you're going to do rooms, you know, 40 by 40, 50 by 50, you're probably going to have to section the room off and then kind of tie into that line. You know, you're going to section it off with, depending on how thick you're going, with a double face foam tape, and then, you know, 20, 30 foot widths at a time. You can probably work that wet edge, and as long as you got a good crew coming and pouring it in, it works great. Low shrinkage, self-curing, and it dries within 4 hours. It's up to 2,000 psi, and within 28 days you're over the 5,500 mark. So very strong, very good to work with. Again, it's got a very precise mixing ratio, but they all do. So, but I think that you're really gonna enjoy the product. Price point on, and I'm not gonna talk too much about price, but when it comes to the 310, the SU 310, we've got some distributors that are actually bringing this stuff in because it's equal to a lot of the stuff they're selling right now, but the price point is absolutely through the roof. So great product to have. The CSU 400 sound control. All right, big demand, multifamily housing. Everybody wants that, you know, especially on wood substrates, you know, depending on your STC and IIC ratings. They want a little bit extra sound control, sound deadening. So, you know, everybody's getting into this in the multi-level or multifamily housing. Great product to use over resilient flooring. You know, again, the CSU, it's a double stick. This stuff is designed to be glued down, and then you glue your product over top of it. 90% post-industrial recycled content, high resistance to compression. And you know, this, as like a lot of these products, these are rated as a non-porous substrate, very non-porous. I'm not going to say they're 100% non-porous, but you have to treat them more like a non-porous substrate. So make sure that you're using the compatible adhesives that are required to go over top of these and rated to go over top of these products. The FSU, the 410, floating sound control underlayment. Big demand for a lot of these areas that might have high turnaround. You know, they might, you know, whether it be multifamily housing, where you don't, you know, maybe even a substrate that is less than desirable will accommodate a little bit. You know, I don't want to promote that this product will hide all, end all, it's the answer all, because any substrate will telegraph through. But, you know, if you've got one that's less than desirable, it will help a little bit. Designed again for floating. Go right over top of your substrate and then glue your resilient flooring to the top side of this. Great for VAT, sheet vinyl, and hardwood. If you don't want to destroy your hardwood, but you want to change it, change your outlook, you know, the look in the room, you can go ahead and put this stuff over top of it without destroying the flooring underneath. High recovery indentation. You know, as we all know, that when it comes to static load, as soon as you start putting sound control or underlayments underneath these products, that your indentation, your indent retention, and is going to kind of, you're going to lose the properties of which the floor has been rated as it is right now. So if you've got, you know, a 1,500 psi on the floor itself, you go ahead and put an underlayment underneath it, that is going to go down. Now the indentation retention and recovery will typically be, you know, it will be good, it will recover, but it's going to be not quite as good as it would if it was your product going over a solid substrate. But you know, a lot of the times this stuff is put in areas where you're not having a lot of heavy rolling loads, or you should not put it where it's a lot of heavy rolling loads. But again, multifamily housing, furniture is going to be basically where the furniture is going to be, and it works great for sound control. All right, so let's get into the adhesives. As you all know, we have always had a spray adhesive. We used to have our 2200 and our 2600 spray adhesive. One was for the LVTs and one was for the rubber. We have basically combined those two together and brought in the SP500, which is good for both. The only difference is your spray coverage. Okay, so on your LVTs, you're going to get 150 square feet per can. On your rubbers, you're going to get 100 square feet per can. You know, make sure the installers mark off their areas, make sure they're getting a can per area. You know, you just want to make sure you've got that proper coverage. So nothing's really changed with this product. You know, 0 VOCs, which is great, contributes to lead credits. You know, we've got the 90 RH, 8 MVER. And what's nice about it is that this really works well with rubbers. As you know, might not know, Roppe has brought in our Envire sheet rubber, and we use it a lot in hospitals and school applications. And for quick turnaround, this product works very well with sheet rubbers, especially if you've got a sanded back sheet rubber or a sanded back tile. This stuff works very, very well. Can be used directly over the MM100, you know, for non-porous substrates. It's a great answer to that. All right, kind of some ideas here. Rubber sheet, ideal for heat welding when you're heat welding that same day. Quick turnaround. A lot of the products out there that you're using when it comes to, like I said, facilities that are bringing in revenue, hospitals and such, they want that quick turnaround be done. And also, too, with the spray, it's Hill-Rom bed rated, too. So the AW510 is what we replaced. We used to have 3600 and 3100 for rubber and vinyls, and now we brought the AW510 in, which is our acrylic wet set. Low VOCs, you can see we've got a multitude of options for sizes, for bigger jobs and smaller jobs. Companies out there that use a lot of the acrylic wet sets. You know, you want the bigger buckets, and we also have the smaller bucket application. You can see down here in red, the one thing we did take out when it comes to our acrylic wet sets, the 3100 and the 3600 used to be, you could use it over non-porous substrates. We have now eliminated that because we brought in the other adhesive, the MS700, and we got rid of the acrylics being used over a non-porous substrate, okay? Because you have to let them flash off for so long, your workability time diminishes greatly, and there was just too many problems with guys letting it flash too long. And it's that tricky window. It's not bad if you're in a small room, but when you get to bigger areas, it gets away on you, and so we eliminated the non-porous substrate option on that. Okay, approved for vinyl and sheet, approved for rubber, stair treads, accessories, and wall base. The reason we put wall base on here is because you know, sometimes in certain facilities they want a real good bond, a better bond than what wall base adhesive is going to do. So you can go ahead and put this stuff, you can use it with wall base, our wall bases, providing, you know, you put it on with the proper applicator, and give it a little bit of flash time, and this stuff here will work with our wall base, and it works quite well actually. All right, AP520. This is going to be a new product, and what we did was we brought in this product in regards to, you know, multifamily. LVTs are big, and we just wanted to bring this in as an option. With pressure sensitive, you know, a lot of them out there are put down with trowels. Okay, we made this as a roll-on application because once that adhesive dries, those trowel lines will never go away. So when it comes to resilient flooring, obviously we know that those trowel lines will telegraph eventually through the flooring. So that's why we went with the roll-on application. Again, can be used directly over non-porous substrates, or it works great over top of our MM100. Okay, immediate use, installations, everybody that does multifamily and senior living and stuff like that, the installers love it because they can spread it, let it dry, and they can blow and go, as they say in the industry. All right, WB600, our wall base. This replaced our 1100. One of the things you're going to see with this product, and I will warn you, that the consistency is a little bit less than paste. Okay, it works great, got great tack, extremely good on corners, very low on VOC. It contributes to lead credit, but why we changed the formulation is, number one, the formulation is lower on the VOC rating, and it's floor score certified. So it's a little bit thinner, but it works just as well. And I know that the mindset when it comes to the WB600, when it comes to wall base, everybody wants to open that bucket and see a paste. This is a little bit, what you see in a bucket is going to be the same thing that comes out of the tubes. So it's not going to be any thicker, any thinner, depending on, you know, whatever, however you apply it, bucket or tube, it's going to be the same product coming out. But, you know, that I just want to bring that to everybody's attention. The performance, the green grab, everything on it works just as well. So we've got our EN610, which is our 2-part nose filler, contributes to LEED. This here now is Floor Score certified, low VOCs, solvent-free, great shear. Again, must be used in all of our nosing applications and stair tread applications. Okay, stair tread, stair nosing, and accessories. If you've got nosings that you're putting on, if you've got 1 or 2 treads that you're putting on, you can actually use this EN610 as the adhesive rather than having to buy, you know, a nose filler and then go and having to buy an adhesive for the 1 or 2 treads or whatever you're planning on using. You can definitely use the EN610 to completely install the, let's say, a nosing, a stair nosing rather than a tread. Or if you want to put down accessories, if you got some stair treads to do and you're using it as a nose filler and you've got some accessories, you can absolutely use this to install the accessories too. Very hard set 2-part epoxy. Our tape system, okay, everybody's familiar with our tape system. Obviously very low VOC, solvent free, great shear strength. Personally myself, I'm a big proponent to tape when it comes to installing stair treads. I love it. Like we say, lick them and stick them and go. Put the nose filler in and you're good to go. It's easy, no cleanup. Once it's down, it's down, and the more you walk on it, the better it's going to stick. So great. You know, one other thing that we like to reiterate on this is please tell your installers not to use this product with accessories. Okay, it sticks great at first, but it doesn't have any longevity under the durability. You know, when you've got a transition strip or a doorway transition strip that's being walked and rolled on. So not recommended for that. Fillet strip, stair tread, risers, stringers. All right, our contact cement. I'm not sure where the picture went to. There we go. Contact cement, again, we needed solutions. We wanted solutions, and you know, we're always pointing people in the other direction of other products and other manufacturers when it came to accessories and stuff like that. So we brought in a water-based contact cement. Coming from an installation side of it, I always used to mock the water-based contact cements, you know, because I'm an old solvent guy from way back. But in actuality, the cross-link technology these days with these water-based contact cements is through the roof. This C630 that we brought in is an absolute superior shear strength. It's got great pull strength, and it works great over non-porous substrates. So even when it comes to our base over an FRP or a non-porous substrate, this works great with our base. It works great with accessories. It works great with stair nosing. So again, we've got answers. This comes in a nice little 1-quart pail, and it is, where are we here? Oh, I don't have that one. Yeah, it comes in a nice little 1-quart pail, and it's good for multiple applications too. So great product to have. There you can go see we're putting on some, there's Graham putting on some profiled base with it. Works very well. All right, so MS700. The MS700 is a great product, basically used for indoor and outdoor applications. This replaced our 6100 single-part urethane. Again, indoor, outdoor, the nice part about it is it can be used for both LVTs and rubbers. This is what we recommend when it comes to our recycled crumb rubber sports flooring, okay? Recycled crumb rubber sports flooring, we used to say you could use it with install it with our acrylics. No more. This product here, this has got great pull strength, great shear strength, great green grab strength, and it comes from the wood side of the adhesive family. It's a moisture cure, so there's no water, there's no solvents. We just did a job in Dallas with some of our sheet rubber, and we were giving this stuff 4 or 5 minutes open time max, putting the sheet rubber in it, and it was drying in no time whatsoever. So as long as you've got the ambient relative humidity is up where it's supposed to be, which is typically what, 50–55%. If you're working in Phoenix in hot, dry areas, then you're probably going to be you want to give it a little bit more open time. But if you're in regular installation conditions, moisture cure, like I said, 5-10 minutes max. Go ahead, roll this stuff in. You're going to have great strength. We did a job in a professional baseball dugout. They were installing it in 48 to 50 degree weather. It's not ideal for us, but because it's not as susceptible to temperature, as long as you've got that humidity in the air, they went ahead and installed it in the sports flooring, and it works great. Never had a call back on it. So it's a little bit more flexible. As you can see, it's got a great RH resistance for moisture within the slab. So it's a great option to have. The EW710 is our epoxy wet set. Nothing's really changed there. Extremely low VOCs, floor score certified, excellent shear strength. And again, you've got your resistance up to 90% RH. So great for using directly over non-porous substrates. And again, not really much has changed. So it's a great product to have. As you all know, between the MS700 or the epoxies, if you use those products, you're going to have Popeye forearms by the time you're done. Basically our ESD adhesives. We've got acrylics, and we've got our epoxies. So low VOCs, great shear strength, bond strength. Used with our ESD system. And if you guys have any questions, just keep in mind too that when it comes to installing our ESD products, with the adhesive, the proper adhesives, when you need testing at the end of the job, we will go ahead and do some testing too through the Roppe Holding company. We will absolutely send our rep or myself and do the testing for you. But yeah, depending on whether you're going over a non-porous substrate or a porous substrate, you're going to use either the acrylic or the wet set. So nothing's really changed there, but really good products. All right. So getting into our maintenance products, I got about 2-3 minutes left here before we're going to get into the question section. So again, you can see the Excelsior label. The guy with the little swing sander there is going to be our label on maintenance products. So again, for solutions, those of you that know, we used to have our cleaner, we had our stripper, and we had our sealer. We've expanded that line a little bit to bring in a few more maintenance products for, again, to have options and to solutions to answers. So here we go. I'm just going to kind of flash through these. Went too far. Okay, so we brought in our neutral cleaner, which is basically what we had. But we did bring in a neutral cleaner maintainer. This is kind of like something if you want to do a sealer on a rubber, but eventually rubber is going to get into the dry buff process. You can go ahead and put a cleaner maintainer on there. You're not typically, per se, getting it into a maintenance program, but what you are doing is you're putting a sealer on it to where once it, because like with our rubber, you got that 30 to 60 day or 90-day process where you want to keep it clean before you can get into the dry buff process. This is a great answer to just kind of put a thin coating over top of it to kind of keep it maintained until you can get to that point. If you've got a flooring that you need to get into a maintenance program, we brought in our FR920, which is the finish remover, and then our performance remover. And I'll explain that here in the next box. Okay, we've got our matte acrylic finish, we've got our gloss acrylic finish, and we have our performance gloss finish. Now the difference between these is the 940 and the 950 are basically just your matte and your gloss over typical flooring. The 960 Performance is a product that we brought in for our sports flooring. Okay, this product here is recommended for the softer floors, for the sports flooring. Once you seal it, whether you do, any chrome rubber product is typically got an initial maintenance that you have to do on top of it. If they want to put it through a regular maintenance program, this 960 has got a little bit more flex to it. It's got a little bit more give to it, so it's designed for the performance floors. And again, we've got the two different removers, whether it's the standard or whether it's the performance remover. All right, so just kind of going through here, our cleaner, low VOC free, biodegradable, works very well with most products for cleaning floors. Whether you're using a scrub pad or whether you're using a brush on a textured product, it works great. You can see the comes in 1 gallon. Oh. The 910, the cleaner maintainer, again, excellent pH neutral, biodegradable, approved for auto scrubbing machines, suitable for most floor coverings, ideal for newly installed rubber. Our FR920, the finish remover, compatible with terrazzo porcelain ceramics, compatible with VAT, multi-purpose from light to heavy removal, depending on your mixtures. Okay, where are we here? Let's keep going. I'm not. Oh, here we go. All right, performance remover. I'm just going to go through these real quick. Normal stripping, reduces application removal time, prevents discoloration. So great product. Oh, okay. Floor finish. When should it be applied? When and why? Most of the products out there today don't require a finish, but the ones that do, in certain applications like elevators and stuff like that, where you're not going to have a regular maintenance program, or the facility doesn't have, cleaning, it doesn't have the ability to clean the product all the time or put it into that cleaning program, that's where we're going to recommend that you use a floor finish. Recycled crumb rubber floors, as you can tell, like I said, they still need their initial maintenance to seal those little, because obviously it's porous. You need to fill the nooks and crannies. So you need to do an initial maintenance product or initial maintenance procedures on there, and that's where we're going to recommend that. So again, floors that won't receive routine maintenance, or smaller areas like elevators and stuff. All right, so let's move on here. All right, floor protection. I just want to touch base on this. Floor protection. Why do we need floor protection? Floor protection for indents. A lot of our products that we have done the rewritten our data on is basically, as you can see here by the bottom of the chair, stuff gets filled with debris and rocks and stones and the whole 9 yards. So, protection is a huge. Sometimes a sealer can help prevent that. But when we like to promote that when you're selling this stuff, when you're specifying this stuff, make sure that you talk to these guys about floor protection, whether it be tables, whether it be chairs, that this stuff be cleaned. A lot of the perception these days is that, whether it's a 6 mil wear layer or a 20 mil wear layer or a 40 mil wear layer, that the thicker it is, the more resistant it's going to be to scratching. Well, that's untrue. And if you don't keep your tables and your feet clean, you're going to run into this issue. Here's a couple examples of what they thought was floor protection, chair protection, and as you can see, it's a sad attempt at protecting the floor. So, and eventually it will wear through, as you can see here on the left-hand side. On the left-hand side, you can see indentation and you can see scratch marks. Adhesive, proper adhesive time, dry times. Look at on the right-hand side where they didn't let the adhesive dry long enough. They got the equipment on there, and you can see where there's been dispersion of the adhesive. So let's continue on. All right, so basically that's the presentation. I know we kind of had a lot to talk about in a short amount of time, but thank you for your attention, and I hope you learned. And let's open the panel for questions now, Kelly.
Okay, great, Mike. You have several questions that have come in while you were speaking, and everyone, if you have questions, please continue to submit them via the question tab on your control panel. Mike, one of the questions you got from a couple people, they want to know what is the STC and the IIC rating on these products?
On the CSU and the FSU?
Yeah, Lois wanted to know about specifically that, and then Daryl had asked about these products in general.
Okay. Let me get to them here. I know I had them here. They are, I cannot seem to find them. Okay. Let me get back to you on that one, if I could, off the top of my head. I have misplaced my products here. Yes, I misplaced them. So let me get back. Is that not, if I can get the email address or whatever, I will get back in touch with them on that, because I don't have them sitting in front of me right now. And the reason being is because they're a new product. We just got the ratings in. And off the top of my head, I don't know them. So if I can get back to that question, I would appreciate that.
Absolutely, Mike. Well, actually, we will. I'll send you all the questions from your attendees, and then you can answer them, and we'll send them back to everybody, so everybody's on the same page.
Perfect. No, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Okay. Another question we got from Marty is, what is the max depth of the self-leveler?
The self-leveler can be up to 2 inches neat, and then if you go ahead and put aggregate in it, you can go ahead, it'll be up to 5 inches if you extend it with aggregate. So 2 inches neat, 5 inches total depth.
Okay, thanks. And then Jim was asking, are you confident that the cove-based adhesive issues have been resolved?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Absolutely. We actually, for our early formulation, we actually had a recall, and we are now above our ratings as far as what we're supposed to be, what the standard is for thickness, and we've had great success in the last production. So it seems, to be honest with you, Rex and I were quite surprised because some of the buckets we opened up lately seem to be even thicker than what we were on the second formulation. So it continues to improve, and we have resolved those issues, yes.
Excellent, thank you.
You're
okay,
welcome.
Next question we have from Nick, wants to know, can the MM100 be used below grade or just on or above grade?
It can be used in all applications. As long as there's no standing water and you've got a clean substrate, you can definitely use it below grade 2.
Okay, thank you. And then Mark is asking, what is the best way to proceed with an old school with very high moisture ratings, probably does not have vapor barrier under the concrete?
The best way to proceed is, do your testing. And if you got high readings, then I would suggest that you go to the MM100. If it gets into old cutback, and hot adhesive, as long as the adhesive is scraped down to as thin a film as possible and you are confident that that adhesive is not going to break down, then you can go over top of that. I don't recommend the MM100 to go over trowel marks, but obviously if it's going to be abated, it's going to be removed anyways. Once it's abated and you do still have high moisture readings, then yes, definitely proceed with the MM100. And the MM100 too, for price per square foot compared to the epoxies, is pennies on the dollar. So it's a great solution for those type of applications.
Okay, thank you. And a quick question, Mike, is there any common questions that you get regarding your products?
Some of the ones we get is, yes, the MM100, as far as what do you do in gypcrete applications? Gypcrete, we don't have a primer per se right now to go over porous substrates. Now you can use the MM100 over top of gypcrete to seal that top layer. You want to do it in a single coat application, and let's say you get to the job site and it's gypcrete, you got some gypcrete repair or gypsum repair, and all you've got is a Portland-based cement. You can go ahead and put the MM100 down and then prime it, and then go ahead and use a Portland-based cement patch over top of that. So the other thing, yeah, that is a common question. Can MM100 be used over gypcrete? Because a lot of times gypcrete will absorb and retain moisture, and when you're putting a resilient floor over top of it, it can be problemsome. So you can definitely use it in a single coat application over gypcrete. Other questions, basically, can you use our primer over top of a porous substrate that's dusty? I would say no, because that primer is rated just for a non-porous substrate. If you do need to put a primer down over, let's say, a gypsum-based or something that's a dusty surface, I would recommend that you talk to the gypcrete manufacturer or the gypsum manufacturer and see what they recommend, or you can use a latex-based primer. Sometimes when it gets over real porous substrates, they might want you to dilute it 2-to-1, 3-to-1 with water to get that first coat absorbed in, and then you can go ahead and use our floor patch over top of it. Other than that, you know, the MS 700. I get to ask this a lot too. How do I clean it up if I get it on the surface? Well, it's really, because it's got no solvents within the product, it will not eat into the surface. So if you get a blob or, you know, a smear mark or something coming up through the seam, you can clean it with a neutral cleaner or a denatured alcohol right away. If you get a blob on top, let it dry. Just let it dry. You can peel it up later, and it will not affect the surface of that product.
Okay, thanks, Mike. And again, if you have any additional questions, Mike Pidgeon's contact information is here on your screen. It's also contained in the presentation slides, which we have in the handouts, and will be sent to you following the webinar, along with a link to this recording. We are at the top of the hour, though, and we're going to go ahead and close our session. And we'd really like to thank the Roppe Holding Company for sponsoring today's webinar, and especially thank Mike Pidgeon for presenting it. Thank you, Mike, for your time and getting up early for us.
Oh, not a problem. Not a problem. I just want to thank everybody for their time too, and again, if you want to talk to your sales rep, we can get product. We have product in stock, and it's some great solutions. So
excellent, thank you. And if you'd like more information about the Excelsior product line or any of Roppe's other products, you can visit the Roppe website at roppe.com. Mike's contact information, again, is here in the presentation slides, which you will get a copy of. You're also going to receive a short evaluation form when you get your email containing your webinar resources. We really appreciate you taking the time to give us some feedback on these webinars and let us know how we did and if we can improve and what else you'd like to know. And just a reminder, the recording of this webinar will be housed on the FCICA website and on the FCICA YouTube channel, where you can access it at any time. And if you're interested in participating in FCICA promotional webinar series, you can contact me at kelly@fcica.com. And again, thanks so much for joining us today. Have a great day.
thank you, everybody.